Hey, welcome to the channel. It's all about the blues harmonica. If you haven't already, thumbs up and subscribe. This is going to be a series of small talks I'm going to do to hopefully facilitate your learning process on musical instruments. But I guess it could be applied to anything, because with music and art, drawing, painting, writing, music, whatever, I mean, I'm a multi-instrumentalist. It doesn't always follow, just because somebody is an eye surgeon in their day job, that they're able to adapt to the level to become highly skilled on a particular music instrument. It doesn't always follow. You could find that a chap who has a profession digging up the road for a living could be just as successful, or vice versa. It's kind of how it's approached. But I guess some of the skills happen when you're very young, and I guess that's why school is important. I think that is probably something, because it gives you the ability to learn how to learn. That's the thing. I've taught hundreds of people over the years, hundreds, mainly back in the day, jazz and saxophone many years ago, but other instruments as well. Of course, this blues harmonica, but guitar. Now we're professional on that. But I've been a jazz saxophonist. But so I'm going to run sort of like a small series, and today I'll just talk to you about habits. Habits are, as human beings, we create habits all the time, and that's the nature of the human being. That's what we do, and of course we're all very complex people. And the one thing you learn as an educator is you learn that everybody sees things differently in their head. I could be playing on the stand with a guy on the same instrument, harmonica or saxophone, doesn't matter. We may see things very differently in our heads, but things come out fairly much the same way. So sometimes, so that's kind of very important to know. So an essential ingredient for success is forming habits. Now, if you want to take up a new instrument, a new challenge, and you might want it to do it because you think, hey, I'm getting older, I want to stave off dementia, I want to use the front cortex a bit more, I want to do that, or take up a language, or you decide you're going to take up running. I'm going to put 5 miles a day in, I'm going to push up the presses, I'm going to do martial arts. I've been involved in that for more years than I care to remember. Started out boxing and as a kid, and judo as a kid, and went through a whole series of things for many years. A lot of broken bones for it, but a lot of knowledge learnt as well. So, because they educate you and they give you disciplines. And a musical instrument, no matter how laid back musicians will show, they underneath it all, they are highly disciplined individuals. Improvisers are no different. Okay, so the first thing is habit forming. Okay, now if you want to start taking up something like this, you've got to love that you want to do it. You've got to decide that you want to do it, make that decision. Okay, and then when you start forming a habit, you want to make sure that habit is a habit that's not more than a couple of minutes. Okay, don't stretch yourself out. Don't say, I'm going to give an hour a day to this, or I'm going to give half an hour a day. You don't want to be doing that. So if I just take you sideways, so like a soccer player, when a young kid goes and kicks a football, in my country they call it soccer in the States, don't you? But in Europe we call it football. And he goes out to play football every day in the holidays. Gets the ball, goes out, finds his friends, or finds somebody to play with, or kick against the wall. They're off to play football. They don't say, I'm off to practice football. They just say, I'm off to play football. And often kids develop a lot of skills through simple boredom, because they're bored. And musical instruments are no different. And as I was growing up around the house, you tend to pick musical instruments because you're bored. So you aim to educate yourself even without getting the education. So, and as I said, it's the ways of learning. Now, everybody learns differently, and that's why having a coach is quite important. But as I say, forming a habit and getting people to buy into that you're actually going to do. You might well change the habits later, but you form it. And you've got to love putting yourself into that environment, even if it's only for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes every day to start with. You must walk first. You mustn't set your challenge too high, because that will create depression. Now, of course, one of the fantastic reasons for playing musical instruments, and as an improviser, an improviser will continually play through the whole of their life, they will never give up, because you're always finding new ground, is to exercise the mind. And in the modern era, of course, that's a real sensible thing to do. Funny enough, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, who was this guy was an ex-special forces guy, and he has companies to do with security and contracting for privateers and stuff like that in security business, and abroad, all over the world. And I said to him, well, you're looking a good guy. And so they look for a particular individual that's very fit, healthy, very smart, but not necessarily over intelligent. But of course, if they get a character that's got the intelligence with all the other attributes, that's the kind of ideal that they want, because they want people to be a certain way. But of course, as he was saying to me, there's people all along the spectrum, and they have to accommodate that, I guess, like any business. So the first thing then, so you form a habit. So if you, that's the first thing. And I'll talk about habits in another tutorial, but not this one. The next thing is, you're going to do something on the harmonica. For example, you're playing a phrase, or you're playing a note that you can't get yet, which when you first start out in the first year or two, you'll have an awful lot of that, okay? So how do you tackle it really? Well, what you should not do is play it over and 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 over again, because you will waste an awful lot of time doing that, okay? So, as I said in many other videos before, little and often, and use it as a challenge, and do it 5 minutes here, couple of minutes here, 5 minutes here. And even when you do it for a couple of minutes and leave it for 20 minutes and then do a couple of minutes, there will be subtle changes in what you're doing. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll be trying to get a certain note on this that you've been trying to get for a couple of weeks. You're still trying to get it. And after the first 5 or 10 minutes, then what you'll do, if you completely use a repetitive action, what you will end up doing is just keep making the mistake. And you'll keep making it for an hour to 2 hours. You won't find any new ground on it. But by coming back to it with a layoff, okay, is important. And it's important not to be thinking about what you're going to do before you come back to it, okay? Take yourself back when you're learning exams, or if you've had to take exams in later life. Perhaps you left school early, or you didn't. It doesn't really make any difference. You find ways of doing it. One of the ways is obviously that you look at something, or you see something, and then you go away. You try and memorize it, but then you need to take it completely out of the mind in order to be able to recall it, and you use association to bring yourself back to it. Okay, that's very important. If you just kind of parrot fashion it to try and learn it parrot fashion, then again, it's a method and it works, but it will take you 1,000 times longer to do it. Now, as a coach, as a musician coach, that's the kind of thing that I would coach people to do if I thought that they needed it. If I thought that there's an awful lot of people who go into music and the arts in general who don't actually grasp this particular thing. Okay, that when you're trying to mold something, you're doing it for a short while. You don't bludgeon it. You don't throw it at the wall. So if you're learning a complex tune, let's say it's not blues, let's say it was jazz, and you're learning a complex thing. This is all about blues. Then you would do the same thing. You would segment it down, and you would take it in bites so that you can learn it. And then, of course, you need to learn it into long-term memory so that you don't have to play the thing for 20 years. You can just recall it if you want. You're no longer using the same part of the brain. But what you need to be doing is exercising the learning the new stuff regularly. Okay, so I'll talk about habits more on another video and show you how you can structure something to get the most out of it. But that's really for individual coaching, because as I say, everybody else is different. The next thing is you must grasp this idea that improvised music, blues and modern jazz, in this case blues, that it's exactly the same as a language. Imitation, repetition, exploration. Imitation, repetition, exploration. Okay, so if you're a young kid starting out, in some senses you've got an advantage because you don't have a great deal of responsibilities while you're young. So you'll find an awful lot of time when you're bored. So when you get bored, what do? You'll malfunction. If you get bored and you don't exercise the mind when you're bored, what will happen? Eventually you'll deteriorate into depression, or then you'll want it to create attention for the wrong reasons, and etc, etc, etc. That's how it works, isn't it? So if you've got any intelligence at all, if you're a kid kicking a football up the road, he's a lot smarter than somebody just wandering around the streets looking for trouble. Yeah, his intelligence is way above just the fact that he's kicking the soccer ball. All right. So okay, so so that's the next thing. So language. Music is a language. Repetition, imitation, repetition, exploration. All right, and that's how you should look at it. So with that, what you need to be doing is an awful lot of listening, and you do more listening than playing. Okay, and that is kind of crucial. It's crucial to development. You don't want to be coming and say, oh, I want to play this instrument, having no idea what you want to play or sound like. Now that's not that you want to be copying somebody else. You don't. You want to become yourself. But you've got to have a starting block. All right. So that's very important to get that particular point in your head. That music is actually a language. And then I see music. There are 12 languages. Okay, there are 12 keys, so there's 12 languages. And I've said on many other videos before, each key is a house with the furniture set in a certain way. But when you move to the next key, say we're going from C to G, say, and then G to D, and D to A, and A to E, and E to B, going like that, or C, F, B, flat. It doesn't matter which way you go around, but each key is the same house with the same furniture in a different order. Okay, well, that's the next thing you need to grasp. Okay, now then you want to show all this stuff and then break it right down into really simplistic things. Okay, so that's the first one for today, the first little kick. Form a habit. Start forming a habit. It's a 2-minute habit. That's all you're going to be doing at this stage. And if you're working on something you can't get on the harmonica, when you're trying to get a scale or trying to get a note, in order for the mind to adapt and change its embouchure without you being aware of it, you have to come away for it. Don't come away for it for a couple of minutes still thinking about it. Go off and do something completely different and keep coming back. That is the surefire and quickest way for the mind and the body to start adapting and moulding to be able to get these things. But we to get our bends and whatever else we get, the overblows and overdraws. Because an awful lot you can do on the harmonica with just the bare basics. Lots and lots of stuff you can do to get you going and giving you interest and fun. Okay, hope that helps. Stay tuned for more. I'll do a small series of these for about 4 or 5 of them. See if people take an interest. And guess what? I'll catch you on the rebound.